There was no reason for her to be wearing that kind of lingerie, at least not for me. Not lately. Lauren had always been subtle with her style, elegant even, but I started noticing a shift. Lacy sets, matching pieces, deep reds and blacks, things she never wore around the house. But I kept finding them in the laundry. At first, I brushed it off. Maybe she just wanted to feel sexy under her clothes for herself. That's what she'd always say when I asked about her fashion choices. But I knew my wife. She wasn't the kind to dress up just to feel good grocery shopping. Not like that. I caught the first real clue on our shared computer. I wasn't snooping, just paying bills, clearing the browser cache. When I saw it, a checkout page for a delivery site neither of us ever used. A boutique store. Overpriced, flashy. It wasn't the kind of place you browsed for fun. The order had already shipped. To a locker pickup, not our house. It stuck with me. A gut feeling that something was off began to form. That night I checked her nightstand while she was in the shower. We never kept secrets with each other, but I wasn't exactly looking for a diary. I just wanted answers. Hidden beneath some old cards and dried roses was a gift card sleeve. I unfolded the receipt tucked inside. 2 tickets to a concert in Seattle. I blinked at the name. We had never been to Seattle together. I couldn't recall her ever bringing it up. But the timestamp said the tickets were bought 2 months ago. The next morning, before she left for work, I slipped a voice recorder beneath the driver's seat of her car. I didn't even feel guilty. I just needed clarity because I was spinning stories in my own head. When I played it back that night, I felt like the oxygen left my lungs. A man's voice relaxed and intimate. "Did you tell your fiancé you're going to the spa this weekend?" Her laugh followed, soft, comfortable, like they shared 1,000 secrets. "He thinks I'm with clients." That word, fiancé, was a gut punch. That night I couldn't sleep. My mind was racing, stuck in loops. I needed proof, solid proof, not just scraps of suspicion. So I did something drastic. The next morning I called in a favor from a client of mine, a plumber who had once boasted about a scope camera he used to check for pipe leaks. I told him I needed to see what was stuck in our upstairs bathroom drain. Never mentioned the real reason. That evening he emailed me the footage. There she was, Lauren, changing outfits in the bathroom, slipping off her work clothes and pulling on something low-cut, heels from a separate bag, perfume, lipstick. I stared at the screen. She wasn't getting dressed for a sales pitch. That was seduction wear. Something was happening outside the walls of our home, and I had been too blind to notice. The next few days were a haze. I started removing our photos from the bedroom walls. Quietly, no confrontation, no drama. I just couldn't stand to look at them anymore. I reset the code to the safe, moved important documents, backups, the deed copy. The house was legally in both our names, but I wasn't about to let her weaponize sentiment. Then one night as she dozed off early, some excuse about a migraine, I saw something that didn't belong. A folded receipt sticking out of her trench coat pocket. A car wash. Different city. Same day she said she was doing a team training session an hour away. I checked the timestamp, then pulled up our home security feed from that day. She didn't go to work. She got picked up, and it wasn't by a cab. There she was, stepping into a dark blue SUV. The man opened the door for her, his hand brushing the small of her back as she slid in. That kind of touch isn't accidental, so I did what I had to. I told her I had a business trip. 2 days, nothing serious. She barely blinked, even seemed relieved. That's when I planted the tracker, slipping it into the earring box from our anniversary. One of the few gifts I thought she still wore. I had modified one of the studs, replaced the core with a tiny Bluetooth beacon and a SIM tag. A gift-turned-spy tool. She wore it that week, twice. The first was dinner at a quiet bistro 2 towns over. The second was a hotel, the same one where the concert was being held. Her earrings' location didn't move for 5 hours that night. I borrowed a drone from my office. It wasn't hard. I was in IT consulting, and our firm was trialing some new hardware for visual surveys. I just needed a name and an access code, which I had. I flew it manually over the hotel's upper floor. There they were, on the terrace. She leaned back, champagne in hand. He kissed her neck. I zoomed in and caught enough for facial recognition. I uploaded the footage to the cloud and made 2 copies. One stayed with me, hidden in our honeymoon photo album behind the plastic, sealed in a flash drive that looked like an old film slide. After that, I stopped touching her things. She felt like a stranger to me. But I wasn't done. One afternoon, while she was at work, I canceled our shared streaming subscriptions. Then I locked her out of the house. Wi-Fi, reset all the passwords and devices. She called me, confused, irritated. Something wrong with the router? I played dumb. I'll fix it later. But I didn't. She could sense the air was different, but I said nothing. I watched and waited. She'd already crossed the line. I was just waiting for the right moment to redraw it. After that second recording confirmed everything I needed to know, I stopped looking for more. Not because I didn't want more evidence. I had enough to burn down her lies already. I just stopped caring about the specifics. I'd seen enough, heard enough. Now it was about what came next. I knew I couldn't confront her. That would end the game too early. And this wasn't just a breakup anymore. This was going to be a chess match, and I wasn't about to lose pieces unnecessarily. The woman I married didn't exist anymore. She had vanished the moment she let another man call her his. So I shifted from husband to strategist, putting every ounce of focus into controlling the battlefield. First, the money. I opened a new account under my nephew's name. He was 23, out of state, and trusted me completely. I told him I needed a business testing platform for a side project. He didn't ask questions. Over the course of 3 weeks, I moved 40% of our joint mortgage reserve into that account in clean, untraceable tranches. Round numbers, automated rules, all done late at night. Our bank statements would show monthly fluctuations, nothing too jarring. Then I resigned, not publicly and not in a way that would raise flags. I spoke to a contact at a smaller tech consultancy, took on part-time freelance work, and directed all payments through a shell company I registered under a neutral name. On paper, my income dropped by nearly 60%. No bonuses, no dividends, just a modest paycheck that barely cleared minimum expenses. Lauren didn't question it. She was too distracted. Next, I bought back half of our house. That sounds crazy unless you know how property records work. A friend of mine, a notary, helped file paperwork that listed a trust-owned LLC as a new co-owner. That LLC was also mine, hidden behind 3 layers of rooting. I used an old inheritance fund as the capital. With the mortgage temporarily frozen, it went unnoticed. I now controlled the deed's decision-making share without her even realizing it. But that wasn't the worst part. That came when I dug deeper into some paperwork I hadn't looked at in months. Hidden among Lauren's recent files was a lease agreement, signed and dated, for a therapy studio. At first glance, it looked like a small business expansion, but the address didn't exist. The entire lease was a fabrication. I handed the file to my notary friend. He ran a comparison and confirmed what I suspected. Lauren had forged my signature on the cosigner page. Sloppy, too. It didn't match my actual pen pressure or flow. That meant she was using our name, our family name, for things she wasn't telling me about. It was time to get closer to her lover. I bought a burner phone. Nothing fancy. Then with some creative profile editing, I set up a social media account using images from stock photography and AI-generated avatars. I posed as a client, someone interested in wellness services and mental realignment. I reached out through the therapy listing Lauren had once posted under a pseudonym. Sure enough, he responded. He thought he was being slick. We chatted for a week. I asked vague but pointed questions, letting him think he was speaking to a curious woman looking for a getaway. He slipped up eventually, mentioned a hotel trip, said he'd be taking someone special to the coast for a spiritual retreat. Gave me the name of the hotel and the exact weekend. My blood ran cold. I booked the room next to theirs. She thought I was on a business retreat. I even packed a suitcase, drove to a co-worker's garage, left my car, then Ubered to the train. Took a different train out to the city where the hotel was, 2 days before their arrival, using cash for all expenses. I spent the first night sleepless. The second, I waited. They checked in together. She wore a dress I'd never seen, one of the kind that wrapped around her waist and revealed too much for a professional getaway. He was wearing a smug grin and a linen shirt, like he'd just won something. I waited until I heard the shower run. Then I slipped the hotel master key, borrowed through an old security connection, into the lock. When I opened the door, steam filled the air. I didn't say a word, didn't move beyond the threshold. Her purse was sitting on the side table. I took it, passport, wallet, everything, and backed out silently before they even knew the door had opened. An hour later, I dropped the bag off at the local police station with a note inside. Find the owner. Possible flight risk. Then I went back to my room and watched. She walked the halls of that hotel later that night with panic in her eyes. By the time she returned home, the house wasn't hers anymore. I had changed the codes, front door, garage, even the mailbox. Her keys were useless. She stood outside and knocked, then tried to call me. I let the calls go to voicemail. Eventually, I texted her. This number is no longer in service. She never found a new place. Not legally, anyway. I filed a null presence claim through the county registry, a little-used loophole that allows a homeowner to cancel a resident's legal claim to the property if they have not lived there consistently and can't be reached for a set period. I had documentation, footage, and evidence of her unauthorized travel. It passed. She tried to register a new address the following week. The system rejected her. No valid ID, no valid home. She was a legal ghost. I didn't laugh. I didn't even feel triumphant. The game had just moved into its next phase. I wasn't trying to destroy her. Not yet. But I wanted her to feel the floor crumbling beneath her without ever seeing my hands. I was done playing defense. With Lauren out of the house and legally unanchored, the next stage required precision, not rage. If she wanted to live two lives, I would make sure the second one came at a price she'd never forget. What I needed now was official leverage, something no apology, no performance, no manipulation could undo. So I called a private investigator, someone expensive, discreet, and terrifyingly thorough. When I handed him the flash drive, the printed screenshots, the documents from her fake lease, and the audio recordings, he just nodded and said, "I'll get you the rest." It took him 4 days. In that time, I didn't wait around. I was done being passive. I started rebuilding my digital paper trail, not to cover tracks, but to expose hers. The first discovery came from our business. We co-owned a small LLC on paper, mostly for tax advantages, tied to her wellness side gigs and my consulting licenses. I'd left it alone for years, assuming it was dormant. But when I logged in, I saw active transactions. Dozens. She had been using our LLC to cut monthly paychecks, not to herself, but to a man listed under a false employee ID, her lover. He wasn't just in her life. He was now on our payroll. I copied every document, every payment, every digital fingerprint. Then I filed complaints with the IRS and the state business regulator. Lauren had always been the more social one, the charming half of the marriage, the one who smiled through every handshake and photo shoot. But charm doesn't protect you when federal departments come knocking, especially when you've committed fraud on documents tied to public funds and employment taxes. I flagged her use of company cards tied to purchases that couldn't be reconciled with any business expenses, hotel stays, boutique shops, premium liquor brands. And then, of course, there were the jewelry payments, the ones she claimed were to replace stolen wedding bands. I had the store clerk on record saying she'd bought a new engagement set for a fresh start, her exact words. I could have sent that video directly to Lauren. Instead, I sent it to the investigator, who knew exactly what to do with it. He traced her studio's billing history, cross-referenced client payments, and flagged suspicious invoices. One stood out: a consulting charge for emotional rebirth therapy, billed to a nonprofit for military spouses. She was double-dipping, charging for services she never delivered, then reselling case notes to a friend's coaching firm under a different name. So I started the leak. It began with an anonymous Telegram channel, The Healer's Fraud. I created it late one night using a masked IP and an account tied to an encrypted email. I uploaded PDFs of the invoices, redacted names, clips from the hotel drone footage, audio snippets from the car recorder. Then I let the videos autoplay, brief captioned clips showing Lauren exchanging cash for stories that weren't hers. Within hours, word spread. I watched view counts tick upward like a clock counting down her credibility. But that wasn't the centerpiece. That came later, on our anniversary. I bought her theater tickets. Nice ones. Center balcony, gift-wrapped. I handed them to her through her attorney's receptionist without a word. She must have thought it was a gesture of goodwill, maybe a nostalgic nod to the past. She went alone, of course. I had no intention of being there. But the show wasn't what she expected. When the lights dimmed, the audience was told they were attending an interactive production about trust. They clapped politely. The curtain rose on a single actor seated on stage, holding a phone. What followed was a dramatic reading of real text messages. Hers. Verbatim. Every sweet lie she told to the man she claimed was just a friend. The actor's voice never wavered as he read her declarations of secret love, of shared hotel dreams, of a future free from lies. Some laughed, others gasped. She fled the theater before the final monologue. By morning, the video was online. By noon, she couldn't access her office. The locks had been changed. Her company email was terminated. Her name wiped from the internal registry. I'd contacted the board 2 weeks prior with anonymized evidence of fraud. The legal team had acted faster than I expected. She tried calling her lawyer. Bad move. I'd already forwarded that footage to the Bar Association. Her attorney, the one she'd been leaning on since the first filing, had previously represented her lover in a custody case. I connected the dots, traced calls, even found shared billing notes. Conflict of interest. The state revoked his license temporarily pending investigation. Lauren was alone now, and not just metaphorically. The children weren't with her either. I had already contacted Child Services with a risk report. Nothing dramatic, just a detailed summary of her mental inconsistencies, frequent absences, and unstable housing status. Combined with the fraud allegations, it was enough to grant me temporary full custody. I filed paperwork for permanent reassignment days later. The social worker assigned to our case wasn't surprised. "You're the only one who actually provided documentation," she said. Lauren tried to fight back. She claimed emotional manipulation, cyberbullying, even sabotage. But you can't argue with evidence that you forged. She was served court summons within a week, accused of employment fraud, document forgery, and tax evasion. Her bank account was frozen. The wellness studio's lease was nullified. I didn't scream. I didn't curse. I just filed for annulment. Fraudulent intent informing the union. That's what I wrote, because I believed every word she ever told me. Every plan, every vow, every whisper of forever. And they were all lies. Designed not for love, but to secure position, comfort, status, a marriage built on fiction. People ask if I regret being so methodical. Not for a second. Emotion had gotten me into that marriage. Logic would be the thing that got me out. The final court date arrived quietly. No fireworks, no courtroom drama, just the sterile sound of a gavel tapping once, followed by the clerk confirming full custody in my name. It was over. The judge's ruling didn't just dissolve the marriage, it severed the last legal bridge connecting Lauren to the life she had betrayed. From that moment forward, she needed an attorney just to speak to me, and even that option was slipping. Because the man who had been her legal mouthpiece, the same man who once served as her lover's counsel, was no longer practicing. Disbarred after the Bar Association reviewed the file I anonymously forwarded, a conflict of interest buried beneath arrogance and poor judgment. She chose poorly. Again. With the divorce finalized, I took control of the last remaining joint assets. The house, now solely mine, no longer carried the ghost of our union. I replaced the front locks entirely and had the smart system scrub every backup code. The garage door opener she'd once programmed into her car, gone. The gate keypad, reassigned. I even reset the code for our home alarm, the one she used to memorize by heart when she still lived here, like she meant it. Now she'd need written permission just to approach the driveway. But Lauren wasn't done trying. That part surprised me. She filed a petition to reinstate limited visitation. She called it a vital step toward healing. The court didn't agree. My legal team presented everything. The therapy fraud, the fabricated lease, the digital transcripts, even the staged performance at the theater. The judge denied her petition without even requiring a full hearing and added an injunction against unsolicited contact. That didn't stop her. She tried the backdoor approach, sending messages through mutual friends, old college acquaintances, even her cousin. But they didn't bite. Not a single one of them sided with her. She had underestimated the power of shame. The theater video had circulated widely, even within our old social circles. Nobody wanted to be her messenger anymore. Some even posted their refusals online, publicly. One friend, a former bridesmaid, shared a short post. If you knew what she did, you wouldn't carry her words either. Harsh? Maybe, but it spared me the effort of defending my silence. I started cleaning out the garage the next weekend. She had boxes in there. Old notebooks, framed photos, dusty scarves she never wore anymore. I didn't open them. I didn't even sort them. I just moved everything into a single corner and stacked them neatly by the wall. Later that afternoon, I rented a U-Haul, loaded it with the entire pile, and dropped it off at her last known P.O. Box address. No note, no ceremony, just gone. The wedding wall came down next. We had this wall in the hallway leading to the kids' rooms. Framed shots from our ceremony, candids from the reception, even a few blurry honeymoon pictures from the coast. For years it had felt warm, proof that something beautiful once existed. Now it just felt staged. So I took a hammer, a bucket, and gloves. Every frame came down one by one. The glass I smashed gently into the bucket, the prints I burned that night in the fireplace, except for one. I replaced the center photo, our first kiss as husband and wife, with a new image. One I'd printed only a few days before. It was me and the boys on the roof of our house looking up at the stars. Their eyes were full of wonder. We had gone up there after they begged me to show them Mars through the telescope. It wasn't even visible that night, but we ended up lying under the sky anyway, just the three of us, wrapped in an old blanket, the air crisp and still. That photo went into the same frame. I pinned it in place and stepped back. The silence in the hallway felt earned, almost sacred. Not everything had to be spoken. Sometimes all you had to do was replace the story on the wall to change the one in your heart. Later that evening, I took the boys to the ridge near the canyon, a place Lauren never liked because it was too dusty. I loved it, so did they. We set up a small campfire and roasted marshmallows until our fingers were sticky. They asked if we'd ever see Mom again. I didn't lie. Not for a while, I said, and maybe not at all. But we're safe. We're together. That's what counts. Then I looked them both in the eye and said it. We've left behind what has no place in our future. We watched the fire crackle until it turned to amber ash, and then we walked back toward the car, quietly, the three of us. The path ahead was dim, but we didn't need to see it to know it was ours now. I never looked back. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.